Welcome to the program Power to Unite with Elvira. Alam ko po, nasisiyahan po kayo for the past few weeks. Ang ganda-ganda po na mabuhay naman na interview natin, especially po galing sa Pocolare. Ngayon linggo, kakaiba po ito ma-interview natin. Ito po ay walang iba, kundi isang chef pastry instructor. Sino siya? Siya po ay walang iba, kundi si Chef 𝗨𝗶𝘄𝗲𝗿. Siya po ay pastry instructor sa Academy of Pastry Arts based in Malaysia. Ano kayang ginagawa niya dito sa Manila at bakit natin siya napili ma-interview? Ano kaya inspiration makukuha natin dito? Siya po ang subaybayan ninyo sa pagbabalik ng Power to Unite with Elvira. Welcome, Chef 𝗨𝗶𝘄𝗲𝗿 here at the program Power to Unite with Elvira. I know this is the first time, although you have been here in Manila for 11 times already, I heard, right?
Correct.
So it's very interesting because you're one of, while we were talking a while ago, you mentioned that your specialty is making bread. But before we talk about your specialty, I would like to know, what is it that attracts you to become a pastry chef,
For me, pastry and food in general is something that's very, very important. In our history, chefs have not been looked as the most highest, most prestigious career, but we know a common fact that everybody has to eat, and everyone enjoys eating. So it's something that I can do. I can share my love of many other fields, as well as supporting somebody, giving someone the nourishment of life, and I can give to everyone. There'll be many other jobs where I can't touch everyone in the world, but one thing that for sure I can do by cooking, we can always touch everyone, and it's something that's understandable and reachable for everybody.
Yeah, because, as a pastry chef, it's quite different also, from cuisine, right? Because
correct.
Now it's very famous when you talk about cuisine. You can see a lot of chefs, are doing a lot of network, guesting, and even have cooking show, but seldom about pastry, making bread, It seems that this is something that I find it very surprising. There must be something quite different, unlike cooking, it's very easy, you just watch and it's very common already. But making bread, making cake is something quite difficult. It takes time, a lot of patience. But before we go into that, Chef Angelo, I would like to know, as a young boy, is there any member of your family that inspired you to become a pastry or to major in this field rather than do the cooking or open a restaurant?
No one in my family was actually ever a chef before, and actually kind of funny, my mom never cooked much until I went to culinary school. I feel I went to culinary school, she had to start cooking also. But my mom really always did encourage me to follow what I really wanted to do and what I loved. I was given a lot of freedom. My mother had me at a very young age, and she had to raise me by herself. So she always wanted to be an artist. But because I was born, she had to change fields and end up working in a post office just to support us. So one thing that she always told me is she worked very, very hard to give me the life to do something that I love doing. So it's very important to me. One is to do something I love and be successful at it, and also give people also the empowerment to do something they love and be successful at it. So even though I don't have a baker in my family or a pastry chef, my mother really did give me the freedom and the inspiration and the strength. I saw how hard she worked to do what I wanted to do.
What inspired you to study at Cornell University? There must be something really that struck you, this is it, this is what I want.
Kind of very by accident. I have a good accident. I fell into pastry. As a young child and even going into high school, I always loved science and I wanted to be a botanist. My dream was to become a botanist, but unfortunately, I shouldn't say, I knew myself, I wasn't the most studious of people. I had interest in what I liked, but it kind of ended there sometimes. So what actually got me into this field is around the age of 15, 16 or so, I got a job washing dishes at a restaurant. It's a local restaurant.
Okay.
So one day our fry cook, he quit, and they said, dishwasher, come here. And I ended up having to make fries and do this. So I did okay, and I moved here, and then I ended up going into doing like the salads and the burgers. This is just your local kind of like TGI Fridays, normal restaurant, nothing very fancy. So I was doing this, and I really enjoyed it. I really loved the kind of the fast-paced rush of, you know, getting the food done and working as a team to meet a common goal to feed people, and at the end of your shift, cleaning hard, being professional. So I had no idea at this point I was going to become a chef. So when it came for me to go to college and decide what I wanted to do, I still had on one end, okay, the botanist, on the other hand, the chef. So when I weighed my options, I looked at myself and said, okay, I know you want to be a botanist. I know you love science, you love math. But honest myself, I was not the most studious of people. So when I realized, I looked at being a chef, I said, well, there's so many parts to being a chef other than cooking food. There's the science involved, there's math involved, there's art involved. Mm-hmm. So being a chef is basically anything that I could have wanted to do before, but creating a medium of food and feeding people. So at that moment, kind of something just clicked for me. I said, you know, I really want to be a chef. At least I want to give this this job a try. Right. So that's how I ended up here. It wasn't a life-changing moment when I was young. It's just a series of events that led me to realize that this was the job that I wanted to do.
This is quite different from now being an instructor of making bread, you know, making croissant, you know. Mm. So what triggers for you to say this will be the one for me, and then to be an instructor to that, considering you don't have an inclination or training for that before?
Actually, I originally started in the culinary field. My first degree was in culinary arts, not pastry, and I was making sushi at the time. So at that time in my life, I was okay, I'm gonna make sushi, I'm gonna go to Japan, and I knew this is what I wanted to do. But then there was, at the end of our culinary career, our culinary instruction, we had to take a bread class, or sometime. Mine was towards the end. And there was one specific person, actually I was just on the phone with him last night, named 𝗵𝗵. He was my bread instructor. And when it came to making bread, I loved cooking, I loved everything. But as we said before, cooking is, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's something is fixable. You know, you can add a little bit of cream or a little bit of salt. But when I saw bread and I saw pastry, it's extremely scientific. And coming from my background at a younger age, always loving science, yes, especially botany and biology, my chef, Chef 𝗵𝗵, he showed me a whole, and he was so passionate. The way that he talked about bread, his eyes just lit up. Like me, sometimes when students talk to me about bread, I can never give a short answer. I feel like a kid in front of a candy shop. So he really rubbed off on me. So between his teaching me that bread is more than just something that you take for granted, bread is a science, it's an art, it requires a hand skill. It's everything that I always loved in life. Also with the fact that he was so passionate about it, at that very point, after that class, I started pastry. So it's because of him and because of his class that my whole life is where it is now. And I became an instructor because I wanted to change someone's life like Chef 𝗵𝗵 changed my life. It's been about 12 years close to 12 years since that time when he inspired me. And as far as regretting, no. If I could go back in my life, I mean, there's plenty of things I would change, but deciding to become a chef is definitely not one of them. Because for me, making pastry and especially making bread, when the bread comes out of the oven every single day, it's like kind of falling in love with your wife over again every single day. There's not a time when the bread doesn't come out of the oven I don't feel like the first time I made bread. Every single day it's just rewarding. And especially now teaching, when you can see the students also on their face, you see the pride that they have in something they made. It's just one of the best feelings in the world. So as far as regret goes, I can't say there's a single time in my career that I decided I made the wrong decision.
Which part of the States were you based before coming to Malaysia? How did you get into Malaysia?
Before this, I'm from Miami, Florida.
Miami, yes.
Before this, I used to work for the Four Seasons hotels.
Okay.
And I have a friend named Peter Yen. He's also a mentor of mine, and he's a master croissant maker. So I'm on the phone with Peter one day, and we're talking about my career opportunities. At the time, I was looking at going to South Korea with the 4 seasons, or going to China to go to Fujian for 4 seasons. And we're just talking, and he just finished a master class here in Malaysia. So he tells me, they're looking for a position in Malaysia. Why don't you come try it out? I said, I'm not sure. I like working for the 4 seasons. He goes, yeah, but you always wanted to be a teacher. And I said, yeah, that's true. So it took me about, after he got off the phone, maybe a few hours just thinking, is it a good idea to leave United States, leave my family, leave a established company like the 4 Seasons to join the school? So a few hours later, I sat down and I talked with my mom about it, and she said, I support you, and I knew I wanted to be a teacher, so that was kind of it. I called Chef Peter back, and he set up an interview with me and Chef 𝗨𝗶𝘄𝗲, our director, and from then on, that's it. 1 week later or 2 weeks later, I put in my resignation, my 4 seasons, and I left the country. It wasn't a planned thing. It was just complete coincidence and fate that actually brought me to Malaysia and to become an instructor. Just a very good roll of the dice, I would say, actually.
𝗏𝗏 is now at Radio Bandido, an informative program that tackles all issues concerning all walks of life, delivering hottest issues and events, with health consultations on air and a lot more, with your host veteran newsman 𝗣ḵi𝘄𝗲𝗿 and master entrepreneur 𝗨𝗶𝘄𝗲𝗿. 𝗏𝗏 sa Radio Bandido every Saturday from 10 to 11 a.m. You can catch 𝗏𝗏 on DZRJ 8:10 a.m., Radio Bandido TV channel 224, TV Plus boxes, and streaming live on Facebook/DZRJ 8:10 a.m. and YouTube channel DZRJ 8:10 a.m. Radio Bandido.
Chef Angelo, because so from 4 season, because maybe other people will say this is very well-known 5-star hotel, and then here you are coming to Malaysia, the culture is quite different, and then also it's a very dominant, Muslim country, considering in the United States it's very varied, Christian, Catholic, Muslim, different sects are welcome. So, don't you have any fear that you might not last long in that, or that you might encounter different kind of people whose local bread will be more popular than the one you will introduce?
Yes, of course. I had a little bit of animosity at times, and it was a big, scary move for me to leave, my family, my support group, the 4 Seasons, my dogs, just to go to a country and do something I've never been before. My vision and my passion has always been so clear. I've encountered many people, and I've encountered also obstacles, and I've had problems being away from my family and being away from my country. It's normal, but none of these things have ever compared to the satisfaction and the drive I have for the vision that I have for making good quality bread, and for making good pastries, and teaching and supporting. So just like everyone else, I have problems in life, and we all have our kind of bumps in the road, but when the vision is so clear and the goal is so important, these bumps, they don't feel so much. And as far as the question, am I worried about people's local bread being more accepted than what I teach? Yes, it happens a lot. It happens sometimes, especially when I first started teaching. I teach European breads, and sometimes we bake the breads, at least I like to bake my breads, a little bit darker. So I've had students, bread comes out of the oven, they say, "Chef, is the bread burnt?" And I say, "No, it's not burnt." "Oh, but it's dark." I say, "Just eat it." And they say, but it's burnt." "Just eat it." So they eat the bread, and I say, "Does it taste burnt?" "No." "Does it taste nice?" "Oh, yes, chef. It's really good." So as far as Asian tastes and European taste goes, yes, they're completely different. And I really respect Asian breads. Some of my favorite breads in the world are, 𝗨𝗶𝗁 from Japan or 𝗨İnsiamada here from the Philippines. But there's a way to combine the two. I always tell the students, just because I make a bread a certain way, it doesn't mean you have to bake it dark. If your customer doesn't like it, you don't make it dark. But at least you can learn how to make the bread, the technique, the proper thing. Because at the end of the day, most important is also our customer. So I'm not worried about the local person outsourcing me or me outsourcing the local bread. What I want to do is make bread great in general. I want everyone from all over the world to eat all over kind of the world's bread. Americans eat pandesal and Filipinos eat baguette and Japanese eat croissant. It's just, bread is one of the biggest cultural things that everyone in the world has to share. No matter what holy book you read, no matter what culture you're from, there's no one who's never eaten a piece of bread before. So my biggest goal in life is just to share this with the world. Everyone can have a piece of bread. Not every person in the world can eat chocolate or see a sugar show piece or take a master class or do French pastries, but there's not a person, no matter how rich or how poor you are, that doesn't eat bread. So this is the vision I have. So I don't feel bad when students ask me if the bread is burned, or I don't feel bad when they say, oh, this bread is hard or this bread is soft. It's just a matter of sharing the knowledge and showing people that bread is something that's very important, more than you just buy from the grocery store and put inside your mouth. It's a very important, nourishing thing and a very cultural thing for all of us.
It's a universal thing that people will eat. It depends only on what kind of bread they are used to, right? ASEAN cuisine or ASEAN taste is very exotic. I think this must be a challenge, big challenge to you, right?
I don't look at it as much of a challenge as much of something very exciting, actually. It's very exotic, and the demand of my students or my customer forces me and encourages me to actually use ingredients and use even techniques that I never would have done beforehand. Things that we don't use in the United States or Europe, like galangal or lemongrass, or things. These are things that maybe I wouldn't have thought about putting in my bread before. But now I'm doing things like, bread stuffed with adobo or chicken 𝗘𝗶𝗃, which is a Malaysian curry, or using these kind of exotic ingredients. So yes, it pushes me to do something if you look at a challenge this way, but I find it actually very exciting and very fun to use Asian ingredients and adapt to the Asian tastes. My technique plus their demand only makes me grow a bit higher.
So you think, by adapting the Asian taste will help you more survive here in ASEAN countries, because you can see, as you said, we have been, the population in ASEAN countries, is growing. And, based here in Malaysia, even let's say in your Indonesia, Manila, you can just imagine how many millions of people already. That's why bread is one of the major, source of food for them, aside from rice, And, considering that you have been here in Manila already 11 times, just to, you were invited to teach here from time to time. I'm sure you must encounter a lot of differences between Malaysian dishes, with Filipino dishes, the way we love food. You mentioned a while ago you love our ensaymada. You also love like the curry in Malaysia, So these are quite different, right? Ensaymada, because we also have influence from the Spanish period, from the Chinese period, So it will be very interesting also to discover what do we have, something in common with Malaysia, common with European bread, and also maybe with American bread. Do you see that as something for you quite to be very, very educational, that every day you are discovering something beautiful wherever you will be assigned?
Absolutely. No matter where I go in the world, and I've traveled quite a lot over Asia, every country, every culture has their own taste, their own specific way of preparing food. But what I really notice is the way that everyone eats food and enjoys food is all the same. In the Philippines, maybe a little bit more sugar or vinegar and a lot of boiling or frying, as opposed into Malaysia, maybe they do a lot of more stir frying, or United States, we do a lot of grilling. So the food changes, the technique changes, but when people sit down to eat the food, that doesn't change. It's universal. People sit down, they all have the same look on their face, they're around loved ones, they're sharing something that's been worked so hard by somebody, or they work together. And actually, this is why food is so important to me. Something I've noticed all over the world. No matter whether the food looks different, or the table setting looks different, or the people look different, the feeling when we sit down and they say, okay, let's eat, it's the same. It's worldwide.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, but we will continue our beautiful discussion sa pagbabalik po ng Power to Unite with Elvira.
𝗨𝗶𝘄𝗲𝗵 is a news-oriented program that tackles topical issues and headlines with the support of DZRJ field reporters. Hosted by the legendary 𝗤𝗶𝘄𝗲𝗿, Monday to Friday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Radio Bandido TV, Channel 224 Sky Cable, TV Plus boxes, digital free-to-air Channel 29, DZRJ 8:10 a.m., Facebook.com/DZRJ 8:10 a.m., and on YouTube channel DZRJ 8:10 a.m. Radio Bandido.
Usapang Bayan Express. UB Express tuwing Martes hanggang Biyernes alas 5 ng hapon. Balita, kontrobersiya, diskusyon at sentimiento ng bayan ating tatalakayin. Ito si Alan Visitacion dito sa DZRJ 810 kHz Radyo Bandido.
Chef Angelo, I'm glad you mentioned a while ago that you have been traveling to a lot of countries, especially in Asia right now, and you have observed, even though our way of cooking, the way we eat are quite different from each other, but when they sit down, it's just one thing, to enjoy the food, to enjoy the taste, and to be with family. Because in Asia, family is very, very important, So you can see it's quite different. You mentioned in your earlier life that your mom plays a very important role in helping you to make this decision to become a pastry chef, right? And also with the support of your mentor, Peter, the one from Four Seasons, and Chef Matelo. Yeah. So how about your father? Did he not say, son, this is not for you, So don't you have any disagreement with your father?
Well, this is actually quite a complicated story. My biological father, actually, I never met. He left before I was born, and I have no regret for this. Because my mom, like I said, she raised me by herself, and she had to do a lot of things. But around the age of 7 or so, my stepfather came into the play. And he's actually been a very important role in my life. I don't like to say the term stepfather, because he was more of a father than my real biological father ever could have been. So I have to say, he's always also been extremely supportive of me. He taught me a lot of what it means to I don't want to say be a man, but be a good male figure in another person's life. So he never gave me any kind of problem. He's always been very supportive, and the fact that technically he's my stepfather and he came when I was 7, he's always been 10 times the dad he never had to be. So he could have just been very simple and easy for me, just as the son of his wife. But he always treated me like his own. And that was another very important lesson I learned in my life. Just because someone's not your blood or not your direct family doesn't mean that they're not an important person in your life. So actually, obstacles from him, no. Having my stepfather is one of the best things that ever happened in my life. And he's one of also my biggest role models.
Yeah, because the reason why I asked you, because, it's very important for you. How come? You keep talking about your mom, who is very supportive of you, a very strong woman, who really loves you, encourage you to be what you are today. So I was thinking maybe sometimes in the family, like a priest or bishop, they will say the father is against, the mother is against, But in your case, now that you said, this is very important, that even though you did not meet your biological father, but your stepfather was really like a father. And this is more important for a 7-year-old child, for you to grow up, very, very with good humor, with good, standing, with values formation. Because to become a successful career person, whether you are doctor, you are lawyer, even or a chef, in cooking or in pastry, it's very important to see the family background, So the support of your stepfather, who has been so nice to you, accepted you for what you are, and your mom, who really cares for you and loves you, and she never abandons you, but rather encourage you to be what you are. I think this is what makes you for what you are today, right? So napakaganda po ang senior sa atin ni Chef Angelo tungkol sa buhay niya, pero itutuloy po namin aming magandang discussion next week sa part 2 na ating programa Power to Unite with Elvira, tungkol naman po sa kanyang trabaho. Ano po yung mga na-encounter niya, challenges, siya po ang subaybayan ninyo sa pagbabalik ng Power to Unite with Elvira next week dito sa programa.
𝗨İ𝗶𝘶𝗵 with host Sunny Ilustre digs into current events and human interests. All viewers and listeners are invited to take part in the discussion. All opinions are welcome and respected. 𝗨İ𝗶𝘶 is open to assist those experiencing injustice. The motto of the show is, if God is with us, who is against us? Seen every Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. on Radio Bandido TV, Channel 224 Sky Cable, TV Plus boxes, digital free-to-air channel 29, facebook.com/DZRJ 810 AM, or on YouTube, channel DZRJ 810 AM, Radio Bandido. Join Arnel Doria as he explores the world of travel, transportation, road safety, and the environment. Tune in to Good Trip every Saturday at 1 to 2 p.m. on Radio Bandido TV, Channel 224 Sky Cable, TV Plus boxes, digital free-to-air Channel 29, Facebook.com/DZRJ 810 AM, and YouTube channel DZRJ 810 AM, Radio Bandido.
Welcome back to the program Power to Unite with Elvira. Part 2 na po ito ng aming magandang discussion ni Chef Angelo Bantern. Siya po ang pastry chef at the same time instructor dito sa Academy of Pastry Arts and Cooking, dito sa base sa Malaysia. Pero right now, andito po siya sa Manila. This is already 11 times for him to come here. So anong meron tayo? Bakit siya ang pinadala ng Malaysia para magturo po? Siya pong subaybayan ninyo sa pagbabalik ng Power to Unite with Elvira. Chef Angelo, thank you so much for agreeing to have another, interview with you, because your life is very, very interesting, What struck me during our first conversation, a week ago, when I interviewed during our part 1, without any inclination, sometimes what you want is not what it will happen, What you don't expect, sometimes the one that will come. So that's why sometimes I said, God is so playful, God is so mischievous, but everything has a reason why it has to happen. And you have been traveling around also. You mentioned you saw the differences, the the tastes are quite different, but when you sit down, when you eat, everybody is the same, right? So being an instructor, because you saw, you know, how do you call that, when you come to Malaysia, you know, you did not have this animosity or fear that you might not get in well with the people, but for you, you accept this challenge. And being young, I think you're very young at that time, that's why you did not see or foresee any problems at all, because for you, you know, what is important is to give the best of your knowledge, to share your knowledge, right? So you are not a very selfish person. To be a teacher, for me, to be an instructor, I always admire them, because I know they always care, they always will give the best they can, you know, the knowledge that they have. This is the only person, unlike a businessman or a businesswoman, they will, you know, hold something. They will not give everything to you because they see you as a competitor, right?
Correct.
But being an instructor, you don't think that way. You know, that's why your background help you to be what you are today. Very dedicated, very happy, you know, you love to share. So when you were now in Malaysia, what is the first thing that you encountered that surprised you most? And then you said to yourself, I will do better, and you know, you will accept this as something like a challenge. Did you encounter anything that is quite unique that for you, you know, you will never give up, but rather will accept it as something that you will learn, you know?
Actually, I have to say, some of the other chefs that I work with the Academy, one of the reasons that made me come to Academy is after I did a little bit of research, I saw some of the work the other chefs were doing. And as we discussed, my specialty is breads, and I did pastry, and I like making ice cream, but I was never the most artistic when it comes to chocolate sculpture or sugar sculpture. So when I came here, I actually saw the level of the chefs, especially Chef Lawrence and Chef Tan in our school, and Chef Chong. They are extremely talented when it comes to doing these sculptures, and it's something I never did before. So career-wise, I said, oh, wow, there's a whole nother level. I mean, we can't compare apples and oranges. They don't make bread, I don't make chocolate.
Yes.
But I said, I have to do this. I mean, if they can do it, I can do it also. So they were very happy and lucky to welcome me, and they've been a very important person also in my career growth. So this is one thing. When I saw things that I never seen before, because for being such a small school at the time, and even at the moment, in a small country, I've seen so many more things and so many more talent and passion from my fellow coworkers than I've ever seen in the United States and working abroad. So I wouldn't say it's so much of a challenge, but it's very eye-opening for me. When I came here and I saw what they did, we kind of have like, not a competition, but we see this person does something really nice, like, okay, I can do something just as nice also. So we don't talk about it, we don't look at it this way, but we always push each other to grow. So this is also a big turning point in my career. Now I can do chocolate showpiece. I can do many other things I could never do before I came to the Academy. So I guess if you say there's one biggest thing that said I can't quit, I have to grow, it'd be my coworkers and this Academy in general, the family and the environment that we create for the chefs to grow, and as the chefs grow, also the students can grow. Actually, we always call ourselves, even we have our WhatsApp group, Academy Family. There's no kind of animosity between chefs inside the school. I've never felt this, and it's just not part of our culture. So the one great thing about the school, at least, is we're a team, we're a family. When we see something, we help each other. We see someone else doing something, maybe not so perfect or could be better, we don't just turn the eye away and keep walking. We say, hey, chef, I see you doing this. Maybe you can do like this one, or we can have a discussion and we can talk. And this actually also relates and kind of carries down to our students as well. The school it's not it's a business, but it's not a factory. It's a family in which we all have a same goal, same vision, same passion, and we it shows in our work as well. Chef 𝗶𝗶𝗏, our director of the Academy, when he opened the school, he did have a vision, and it's a vision that we all share in the school, which I think is one very important for any business, that people follow your vision and you have something they can believe in. But even though, yeah, of course, a school is a business, but the idea is to, like you said, to inspire and touch other people and grow our youth and grow just the people around us and grow our economy and grow the families of the people who are working for you. He's been a very good inspiration for me when I think about something like this. And I think it's actually very important for any business and any person, no matter what you're doing. If you're doing it for yourself, you only have such a small limit you can grow. When you're doing something for other people, your growth is exponential, and you can grow so much. So the second that you open a school or become a teacher or do something for somebody else, not only are you helping them, but you're growing as well. And actually, that's what this academy represents.
I noticed that sometimes the quality of bread depends on the temperature of the country itself. You know, I always wonder how come the croissant in Europe, especially in France, tastes better, Different also, croissant in Italy is quite also different, but it's also good. But when it comes here, how come we couldn't get, the good taste as what it is? So I said probably it's because of the temperature, the weather condition that we have. So what hinders you, or maybe what do you think is the problem here? You have been here teaching for 3 years. I'm sure your student also gave you an idea that our bread is quite different,
Well, this is quite a big question, actually. Let's start first about the bread being different. Now, Asia culturally is not as big of a bread-eating region like Europe. I mean, Asia still, the staple food is rice.
Right.
So when
Noodles.
bread, rice, noodles, things like this. So when bread came to Asia and become more popular is around the same exact time that United States was like more commercially manufacturing bread. So Asia's first kind of, not first, but the popularization of bread in Asia came around the same time that these soft breads or so became popular in the United States as well, and especially Philippines, because Philippines and the United States have a history with each other. So most Asians' take on bread is it's always kind of soft or maybe like a treat, as opposed in Europe, bread is kind of almost a staple, something like this. So this is where the kind of taste differs. I mean, it's not saying there's a right or a wrong, but Asians tend to like softer bread, sweeter bread. 'Cause that's exactly what came here, and that's what they're used to. So this, first of all, this kind of difference. So getting aside the fact that there's a taste difference inside, which is okay. As far as, say, making a crusty baguette or a good croissant in Asia, the scientific point of the view, yes, there's weather is important, where the flour comes from is important, the type of mix you're using is important, the mineral content of the water is very important, but all of these things are things that actually can be adjusted. The biggest thing on making a good quality bread or a good quality croissant is the knowledge and the dedication of the baker. Because no matter if I go to India, or I go to Philippines, or I go to Malaysia, or I go to the United States, I can make the same quality of croissant and baguette with slight variations everywhere. So when you taste a bread from someone else in maybe Europe or something, maybe the baker, it's himself. You can also have really bad bread in Europe, I've had, but the baker himself maybe has access to some more ingredients, but ingredients or not, he has more of a knowledge and more of a passion to do it. As opposed to maybe you find a baker somewhere in South Asia, it's not as respected of a thing. He's just making local bread as a sweet for a taste for people to eat. So the ingredients and the technique, not as cared about or as important. So let's say you have a croissant in Europe and a croissant in Philippines. The biggest difference is the person making it and how much knowledge they have of that flour, that water, the weather around. You said the weather for an example. Let's say right now it's rainy season in Philippines. It's raining a lot. So if I take the flour, there's going to be humidity in the air absorbed into the flour. So this time when I add the water to the dough, maybe I can't add as much because the flour itself already has some moisture from the air inside. Now in a dry time of the season, I can add that extra bit of water because the flour is dry. So this is where I say the knowledge of the baker comes in. So yes, weather, flour, water is important, but if you have a knowledge of the ingredients you're working with and how to change them, these actually things don't matter as much as the person actually doing the bread itself.
Good News Pilipinas with host Francis de Guzman is advocacy in action, which brings to you exclusives to enhance life's values that really matter. This program also brings forth guideposts on scriptural truths, giving hope to nations. Watch and listen on Radio Bandido TV every Sunday from 12 noon to 1 p.m. on Channel 224 Sky Cable, TV Plus boxes, digital free-to-air Channel 29, DZRJ 8:10 a.m., Facebook.com/DZRJ 8:10 a.m., and YouTube channel DZRJ 8:10 a.m. Radio Bandido.
I remember you mentioned that bread is very scientific more than cooking. Why did you say it's very scientific?
Actually, I love this question because bread, everything revolves around yeast. Okay, so yeast is a living thing. It's a living organism, just like us. It takes in food and releases, carbon dioxide and alcohol and lactic and acetic acids. So as opposed to when you're cooking or even sometimes doing certain things of pastry,
yes.
if say making a cake, I give someone a recipe, I give someone a method, I give someone a mold, they can make exactly the same cake I can make. It's no problem. But when it comes to the bread, you're literally dealing with hundreds, if not thousands, of microorganisms and bacteria that are making this bread living. It's a living thing. So it's kind of like having a child. You have a child, sometimes children, they're going to do whatever they want. But you're going to have to convince them a little bit through knowledge and psychology. Say, for example, your child doesn't want to eat spinach. My mom did this to me. Go, Popeye eats spinach. You want to be strong like Popeye? Oh, yeah. I love spinach now. Yes. So doing with bread is kind of, the yeast is going to do what it's want to do. Mm-hmm. But through knowledge and understanding the science and everything going on, it gives us the best kind of possibility to control this living thing that is yeast and 𝗨𝗶𝘶𝗶𝗍 and all these other microorganisms. So this is where making bread is almost like being a scientist, because you're actually just dealing with small microorganisms and bacteria that are actually affecting everything that's going to have the bread come in, enzymes and proteins, and I could go on and on. But there's so many little teeny things that you have to have knowledge about if you want to make the bread consistent and perfect, as opposed to pastry or cooking, where there's a lot of skill involved, but you're not trying to manipulate literal microorganisms as you do when you're doing bread.
So now that you have been here in Manila and you have shared it with several of your students, what did you see the differences between, Filipino student, based in Malaysia, the Malaysian student that you have? What do you see the differences there?
It's hard to say, because I try not to look at, all my students are the same, whether no matter what country they are, and I mean they're all just kids or even sometimes adults that just want to come and learn. So I focus on this first. But one thing I do have to say about at least Filipino people in general, not just students, but they're very loving and very easygoing. So one thing I notice with my Filipino students is they're always very happy, always singing all the time.
Okay.
So if I had to say one difference I find, is not saying there's a good or a bad, but I do really appreciate the kind of love for life and the kind of joy that I see in most Filipino people that I don't see in actually a lot of parts of the world. I promise you, no matter where I go in Philippines, no matter who I walk by, there's somebody singing somewhere for sure. So I'd say this is a difference. It's something I really love about the Philippines. As far as students go, like who's smarter or works harder, I mean, everyone's the same. Just depends on the person.
What I have seen that, Filipino, as you said, especially the youth now, are very happy people. They love singing. Do you see dedication to them, or do you see the Filipino youth is just that it's the in thing? So everybody wants to be a chef because it's the talk of the town. Do you see a future for the Filipinos here if only they are as dedicated as the other countries?
Absolutely. I mean, being a chef is kind of the in thing in the world now. Back when I started wanting to be a chef or cooking, the Food Network is very small. Nowadays, with shows like Cake Boss and Rachel Ray, and they're great shows, Master Chef, everyone sees this on TV. And the biggest thing is when they come to actually work in the field, they see it's not like making cupcakes for 6 hours with Rachel Ray in a nice piping bag. And Rachel Ray, I love you, you're fantastic. But I see there's a future for anyone, but you have to really love it and you have to be dedicated to it.
Yeah.
You can make a lot more money doing something a lot less physically demanding. Like I could work behind a desk or something and make more money. I can work a 9-to-5 job, but that's not what being a chef is about. Being a chef is something anyone can do. You don't have to be born with, I'm not especially talented or born natural gift, but if you love it and if it's something that you're passionate about and you're willing to work hard. Like I said, it's one of the hardest working industries in the world, I would have to say. And for, like I said, the amount of money or gratitude, like you said, people don't realize, it's not so much. So yes, people are coming in because it's the in thing. But the people who want to be chefs, they'll realize that extra 30 minutes after 12 o'clock when you think it's lunchtime, you're working, you won't feel it. Yeah, I mean, your stomach might feel it, but you'll just push. You'll get it done. And that knows that then you're a chef. That's how you know you want to be. So I don't feel it's limited to anyone. Anyone can be a chef. Anyone can do this. Anyone can be famous as a chef. Anyone can make nice pastries or breads. It just matters on how much you want to put the work or the effort into it.
Since we are so westernized, maybe the upper, rich people or maybe the educated one who has been traveling, will learn to accept it, will learn to like it. But for the ordinary people, I don't think they saw this as an opportunity for them. It's only opportunity to work abroad, to work, in the hotels, to work in the shipping, So this is what I saw. It's not because they love it. It's because they saw it as an opportunity to travel. So what will you be your advice, to this kind of youth that we are now getting?
For me, if it makes them happy, I don't discourage it. I mean, not every person in the world who cooks food for a living is a chef. And not every single person who cooks food loves it. I know many people, and even had teachers before and chefs. It's a 9-to-5 job. And if it pays the bills, it gives them an opportunity to travel or see abroad, that's fine. But you won't find such a fulfilling life this way as a pastry chef.
Okay.
Because again, it's very, very hard work. It's hard work, it's tiring, and I don't think, if I wanted a 9-to-5 job, there'd be much other things I would pick besides being a chef. So my advice to them is, and I know a lot of Filipino friends of mine, they went into this industry just so they could travel abroad or get a J1 visa and go over here, and it works for them. And if they're happy, it's okay, but it's not the most fulfilling life you could have as a chef. I say if you want to be a chef, you give it your all, your dedication. And a message to those people who just do it because they want to travel. Like I said, I had no plan on being a chef. One day I became a chef, and then one day after deciding to be a chef, I woke up and said, I'm going to give it my best. So yeah, maybe they decided to get a job as a chef to work on a cruise ship or something. It's not too late. They can still be a chef. Just say, hey, you know what? I'm doing this anyway. I'm spending 9-10 hours of my life working. Why don't I do the best job I can do? And then their life will change.
But I'm learning something from you. But we will come back again with this beautiful conversation sa pagbabalik po ng Power Tonight with Elvira.
Be enlightened with inspiring stories. Interesting biblical features. And insightful interviews with the pillars of our Catholic faith. Power to Unite with Elvira.
Chef Angelo, I'm really glad that you share some of the concerns, some of the things that we have to know. It's not, as you said, what struck me is that it's not very easy to become a chef, So in the Philippines, sometimes in your class, I understand, you only have 1 or 2 students. Don't you feel frustrated about it?
Not really. Of course, I have 1 or 2 students, or sometimes you have, that person wants to play on their cell phone or not pay attention. But like I said before in our previous conversation, my vision is to make the product nice, or at least the best that I possibly can. So these little things, of course, I think about them, they come my brain, but they go away also very, very quickly, because my focus is not on that 1 or 2 student, or not on that one person not paying attention. My focus on what I need to do to make the class best possible for that one student, or for the other students who are paying attention. So there's many things in life that don't go the way you plan them, or that you like them to go, but it's just kind of steering off here and then coming back to the same path always. So if you ask me, frustrated? Yeah, of course. But my frustration doesn't last more than a few seconds or a minute if I'm very unlucky. But yeah, that's about it.
So any message to the Filipino people, to the Filipino youth especially?
On a smaller scale, as a chef, the best thing I can encourage you if you want to be a chef is, we've already talked about, is be passionate. If you're going to work 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day, you might as well be doing something that's worth 8 or 10, 12 hours. Do your best all the time. Read books, learn, be humble. Don't try to make a competition of someone who's better than you, because you can learn from them. You can always be better. The second you stop learning or growing or trying hard, your life stops. And this doesn't go for chefs, it goes for everyone. And aside from being a chef, do something that you absolutely believe in. Because no matter how much money that you make, or how hard your work is, or how difficult life gets, you will have that vision. So every time something goes off course, you'll come back. It goes off course a little bit, you'll come back. So you have to do something that you believe, that you love, that makes work will always be work, but it's going to make work a little bit better. Make those 8 or 10 hours a day a little bit more worth your time. So that's it. Just believe. If you're going to do something, do it well.
It's really true, and I really agree with Chef Angelo for what he shared with us. It's a very beautiful story about a story of being a pastry instructor. What is important is that, when you learn about his life, the support of the family is very important. The support of the stepfather inspired him also, because people, especially his mother and stepfather, believes in him, and I think that's the most important, for him to accept the challenge, to give the best, and to prove to them they are not something they should regret because he chose this life. Rather it's something he appreciated. At the same time, coming from America to come here in Asia, in spite of differences in culture, for him it's not a challenge, but rather it's a learning experience that he can become a better person, by accepting the culture, learning from others. He also mentioned it's a hard work. I agree. If you really love doing something that you like, you never count how much you are going to earn, but you never count how much time that you have to finish it. Rather, you have to be dedicated to give the beautiful piece that is in your mind. Everybody is so talented. I believe Filipino youth are born with great talents. They have creativity. Let's use our creativity to improve, to serve, and to give the best to our country. Whatever your chosen field, number one, always remember the support of the family is very important. Second, you have to believe in yourself that you can do it. Then you have to trust yourself, and also to try your luck and to do hard work. Don't expect things to come easy. In life, you will always encounter a lot of experiences that will serve you as a challenge, but it's a very good, challenge that will make you grow as a better person, just as what Chef Angelo is sharing with us. I hope you enjoy our episode here. Until next week, dito po sa program ng Power to Unite with Elvira.